Hi! Today I'm doing a review on the Signs of the Zodiac series by Vicki Pettersson. There are 6 books in this series, and that's that. So if you decide to read the series, you have every book. You don't have to wait for another one. So it's set in Las Vegas, so that's good for a change, and it's kind of like about superheroes. So we have the good ones, we have the people who are on the light side, and the bad guys who are on the shadow side. And it's all set around kind of star signs as well. So like there's 12 in the shadows and there's 12 in the light, and I think there's 12, yeah. So our main character, she is the Joanna Archer. She's the Archer, so she stands for Sagittarius, and she's the light Archer. And there's like the opposite. There's a shadow Archer. So it's like good versus evil. And Joanna, at the beginning, she's 25. When you turn 25, you get your kind of superhero powers, and she's thrust into this world then, just trying to figure out, what's going on with her own life. And as well, she has kind of like a backstory where she was attacked when she was 16. It kind of plays into her personality and ties into the plot as well. So the premise is quite good. It's exciting and it's new. And each character as well, they like the author gives them a really good. They're not all the same. They each have an interesting background and interesting history. So that's good. So overall, I found the series good, but there were a few faults with the writing, and I had some personal issues with the plot. So let's just get into them a bit more. I really feel that the author needed to think about a bit more the whole good versus evil basis of the series. Like at the beginning, it just seemed like they were killing each other, and I didn't really see how the light side were much better than the shadow side, because they were trying to kill them as well. So I was like, why are they killing each other? Like, they say it's for balance, but doesn't that just make the good guys murderers as well? Like, I don't think we got a great answer to the big why of this series, of this universe. Why was there all this fighting? Like, why were the bad guys bad? Why were the good guys good? At the beginning, I didn't really get the answer to that. I do think the author, sometimes she wasted potentially great plot points. Like, this happened a lot of times for me. I'd be reading it and something amazing would happen in the plot, and the author would go and ruin it. She always did something to make me hate the direction the plot went in. Like at the beginning I loved it, and then she managed to do something to ruin it, which really kind of bugged me. And that could be a personal thing too. Other people might have found her direction with the story was good, but sometimes I think she kind of ruined it a little bit. But so like in one way, this series was written really well, in that it was such an imaginative world and creative and exciting. But in another way, I do think it was a bit. Sometimes the writing was a bit careless. There was like inconsistencies or continuity errors. Like, for example, when Joanna was attacked when she was 16, she says in one scene that she had one lung. So obviously, like, she was so, damaged, like they have to, like, one lung doesn't work anymore. And then in the same book, later on, she says multiple times, oh, I was so, like, out of breath, I almost coughed up my lungs, and my lungs were racing. She said the word lungs at least 3 times, and I was like, I thought she'd only one lung. Things like that. There's another, age was another big inconsistency. I just don't think some parts were thought out enough. And even though it was a very imaginative kind of story and world, sometimes it was a bit too conceptual, and it was really hard to imagine in your head. And the scenes would go on very long as well. These kind of like fight scenes that take place in alternate dimensions where it's so far from reality, it's very hard to imagine what it's like in your head. So that made the reading a bit difficult at times. I liked how the author managed to kind of discuss moral aspects, like, you know, good and evil, black, white and grey, like all those, you know, all those concepts, but without sounding preachy. It wasn't like the author was preaching to us about it, you know, which I really appreciated. I think the last book was definitely my favourite, the sixth book. But it's kind of strange because certain plot points were dragged out a lot over, you know, the other books, 1 to 5. And book 6, I think, should have been dragged out more, maybe over books 5 and 6. So it was strange, like the author dragged out things that shouldn't have been dragged out, and she kind of hurried things that could have, you know, been dragged out a little bit more. So overall the series was good, but at times I just willed it and just longed for it to be just a bit better. Like when I started the book, I looked up what it was about on Amazon and read a few reviews. And the minute I started, I just couldn't wait for it to finish, so I just went to the next one to see what would happen. Like I wasn't looking forward to each book I was reading. I just couldn't wait to go on to the next one just to finish it. That's not really a good sign. So this series got a lot of, you know, great reviews, mostly positive, where I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think it was the best series, but I don't think it was very bad. It had lots of potential and original ideas, but the execution of those sometimes wasn't perfect. But would I recommend it? I suppose I would, just because it's a little bit different, but it's not the best series, so, you know, if you don't get around to it, that's fine. So that's my spoiler-free review. Now I'm going to do a spoiler review, and if you would like to listen to all those spoilers, keep watching, but if you don't, I suggest you switch off them. Okay, so spoiler review. Joanna or Olivia or Jolivia, whatever you want to call her. Sometimes I liked the character, and I felt so bad for her at times because she was treated like crap by all those, what you call them, the light side. And I felt so bad. I was like, why is she bothering with them? They're terrible to her. Then other times she was kind of annoying in that she couldn't make up her mind who she wanted to be, like Olivia or Joanna, and she just seemed like bloodthirsty most of the time. Like she was constantly on some like vendetta, whether against Joaquin or Regan and the Tulpa, and her vendettas dragged out a lot over at least 2 books. What I said earlier about I couldn't understand the author's or the character's decisions about things, one of those was Joanna's decision to tell Ben about, you know, her being alive. Like she came, that's such a big decision, and I feel like she just came to it like, oh, I need to kiss him, I know, I'll just tell him I'm alive. And she took it very lightly, and you know, what she did to him then, you know, she just left him. Like, it didn't really make sense. You should have took more care. And then also Ben's reaction didn't seem very genuine either. It didn't seem plausible. Like, he was a wreck after she died, or thought she died. Like, he was devastated. And then when he finds out she's alive and she left him the next morning, obviously he's going to be a bit mad, but realistically he wouldn't just give her a note saying fuck off and forget about her. No, he would spend every waking hour searching for her and trying to figure out what happened, and being a little bit angry about her having to hide everything. But like, realistically he would have, you know, kept searching, and I didn't really believe his reaction. One of my biggest problems with this series was the whole identity switch thing. Like, that was another thing where the author, you know, the first book started out so well, started out so positive. I loved Ben and Joanna's relationship. It was one of my favourite things in the first half of the book and made me really like it and think this series is going to be great. But then the author has to do something to ruin it. And the whole identity thing where she became Olivia, I just hated that aspect. I thought it wouldn't drag out as long, but it just seemed so confusing and so unnecessary. Like, I couldn't understand why all her friends in the light side couldn't know her real identity. Why couldn't they? And like, they knew she was Olivia but not Joanna, and then the shadow side knew she was Joanna but not Olivia. Like, forgetting like that they should have realised it anyway with her stupid mask. And in the comics, she was called Joanna, so how come they didn't know she was Joanna? I don't know. But it just seemed unnecessary, because after a while practically everyone knew who she was, so I didn't see the whole point identity thing. It was just terrible. Just something that wasn't really planned out well and had so many questions and holes in it. Another wasted potential in the plot was obviously the Ben and Joanna relationship. But after a while I did start to prefer Hunter, and I loved Hunter then and Joanna at the beginning. They were just so sweet and nice, but again the author has to do something to ruin it, which was Hunter's betrayal. And betrayal just ruined everything. Thinking back when they first got together and they were happy, and you would think like, why would he do that when he was like married to someone else? And like, fine if he needed to go in there to go to his wife, find his daughter. But why did the author then decide to make him into be Jade Jax? That ruined it again. I had big problems as well with how the pregnancy was handled in this series, and also in the last book she was about 4 to 5 months pregnant, and not showing one bit. Even fine if she wasn't showing really through clothes, but like when she was naked with Hunter, I don't know, didn't he notice like a little bump or something? I don't know. And then like the author took a potentially amazing moment where she revealed to Hunter that she's pregnant. Yes, I was looking forward to that scene, but no, it was a big letdown. My favourite part of the series was probably with Carlos and all the Greys. I loved that part where she was pregnant and they were all really sweet and kind of protective of her. Yet they were kind of funny, and I know I like the Greys. I think they make more sense between the light and the shadows. So yeah, it's not my favourite series in the world. But I mean, it's okay. It has good few positives in there, which is always great. But that's my review anyway on the Signs of the Zodiac series. Let me know what you think of it. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it in the middle? And thank you very much for watching my review.